Women aren't born warriors, we become them. And the road to becoming a warrior is bumpy as hell. Each week, I'm interviewing women who, through tragedy and triumph, are leaping for greatness. Get ready to unleash your inner warrior. I'm Liz Svatek, and this is Conversations with Warrior Women. Today on the show, we have self-made media mogul Nely Galan. Nely was the first Latina president of entertainment of Telemundo, is an Emmy Award-winning producer of over 700 television shows in English and Spanish, including the hit reality series The Swan for 20th Century Fox, and has launched over 10 television channels abroad for companies like HBO, ESPN, Fox, MGM, and Sony. Taking a mid-career sabbatical, Nely completed her master's and doctorate in clinical psychology, where she decided to focus on the psychology of money in multicultural communities. She then authored the New York Times best-selling book, Self-Made, Becoming Empowered, Self-Reliant, and Rich in Every Way. Lord, do I need that, Nely? We're going to talk about that today. About the revolution in women's entrepreneurship led by multicultural women in the U.S. and emerging women around the world. Nely has founded the Adelante Movement to empower and train multicultural women both economically as well as entrepreneurially. Her digital platform, becomingselfmade.com, reaches over 500,000 women monthly and hosts content in financial literacy, self-made stories of women of color, and webinars. She has trained over 1 million women of color in entrepreneurship in person and online. Nely teaches women and their families that if we all focus on becoming financially self-reliant, we can become self-made. Welcome to the show, Nely.
Hi there. So happy to be here with all of you. So important that we have this conversation in these times where we see how important it is to be financially self-reliant. And during a crisis, we learn that, right?
I mean, we have never learned that more than now. We are in the learning currently. Yes, we are.
And don't feel bad. If you arrived here and you feel like you were not prepared, just know I have arrived at many crises unprepared. And that's why they happen.
Yeah.
So you know what is possible.
Okay, Nely. So I like to start at the beginning because I got to get to know you, Nely. What was your dream for yourself as a young girl? What did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, I think we have to remember that I'm an immigrant and that I came to this country when I was 5 years old. So the greatest crisis of my life happened when I was 5, when my parents had to leave their country. And we came with the shirts off our back. We had no money. My parents didn't speak English. So my life very early on was really about survival and helping my parents and listening to my parents say, oh my God, why didn't we take money out of Cuba? Why did we think that we never thought things could go bad? So all the things that we think about today, I was hearing since I was 5 years old. So I think for me, as a kid growing up, I thought, wow, I wish I could be like a doctor, something that no matter what happens in the world, they're always going to need a doctor. Everything was never about, I never thought about what I really wanted, or which I sometimes think we forget that when we get told, follow your bliss and the money will come and, all that, that's a very first world entitled point of view. People that come from countries where bad things have happened, and I think going forward after this pandemic, we're going to realize that not everyone gets to do what they really want to do. And a lot of people that have been through trauma pick something that they think is sensible or that they think is bulletproof in a horrible situation. So as a child, I wanted to be bulletproof because my parents weren't. My parents came here and their degrees were worth nothing. They had to start all over again, working in factories. And not that they resented that, because my parents love this country and we're just so grateful. But I knew from 5 years on that bad things happen to good people. And that maybe that's why I'm so financially self-reliant. And I have been working on this self-made idea and brand my whole life, because I had to make myself over and over again through crises, through the many crises of our lives. When the whole pandemic thing happened, my son said, Mom, this is the worst year ever. And I go, are you kidding? Life is full of crises. There are crises that are force majeure, like a revolution in your country, like an earthquake, a flood, a fire, all things that have happened to me. And then there's crises that you bring on yourself, like a divorce, God forbid, a health problem, you know, someone dies in your family. So life is full of crises. So if we don't learn that early and learn to deal and arrive at crises with grace, it's very difficult to make it through life.
I think that's a really important distinction you just made. When you're an immigrant kid coming here, you may not be thinking of dreams and things. You're trying to be bulletproof, right? You're trying to survive, and you're thinking of your parents and their degree. They have degrees and they mean nothing. That's so, think about that, right? You work in your country.
When you leave your country overnight, and I've, since I work with so many women from around the world, it happens to people from China, from Africa, from India. They come here, and sometimes you come, and I don't, that's why, I sent you that tape, that thing I did at HBO where I talk about the histories of other people in America.
Yeah.
Talks about that. You come here, you don't get to go find your degree. You may not even have your paper. Like, we don't even have the right paperwork when we come here. Because you leave in a rush. And then even if you had your degree from Havana, they're like, well, that does, you can't be a doctor in the United States when you have to take, the doctor or whatever final exam. When you have it, they don't trust that you have a degree from, they're not going to let you work in a hospital. They're not going to let you work and, be a teacher. My mother was a teacher, and she had a master's in education and in accounting. And they're like, you can't work in a school system unless you do your degree all over again.
Yeah. I mean, that's just insane to me. Tell me, how did your parents, what do you think the biggest lesson you learned from your parents was, other than being bulletproof, but maybe you came to that on your own? What do you think what do you think their biggest influences on who you are now?
I think they are my total influence, because my parents, like all immigrants, were so hardworking, so grateful to be in this country, taught me to be a patriot, to be in love with this country. We're just so committed to the American dream, so committed to the fact that this was the greatest country in the world, that this is the one country that would take in an immigrant and turn their lives around. And, it makes me so sad that we're in such a divided country, because I know because I know immigrants in this country, that we are so in love with this country, even maybe more than Americans, that sometimes take for granted all of the freedoms, all of the laws that have been written to give us all of the opportunities that we all have. I mean, do you think that in one, lifetime in this country, I always say I'm self-made, right? I think that if I lived in Latin America, even if I was the kid of rich people, I could never be who I am, because those countries don't allow women to be, to do anything. If I lived in an Arab nation, if I lived in Africa, if I lived in Russia, do you think I'd be me? I don't think so. So we take for granted as women, and look, it's great that in this country we complain and we want things to be better and we fight for our rights. But we don't get that even with all that's going on, we are in so much better shape than any other country in the world, period. And for women, or for people that are gay, or for people that are transgender, or for people that are from other countries. I mean, do you know how immigrants and other people are treated in other countries?
Right.
So I think we forget that. And when you are an immigrant yourself, you have seen a worse life before. So you know that this is not that bad. Yeah. Even when it's bad, the fact that we can fight with each other is good.
It's a privilege. We can fight.
Oh my God. The fact that I mean, sometimes I go, oh my God, we have so many different points of view. In Italy, everybody's Italian. They kind of think, and then I go, remember that that's a privilege.
Yeah, that is a privilege. When you talk about there's a lot of crises in our lives, like how do we kind of prepare? Like, you're right. If you really think about it, it's unrealistic to be like, oh, life's just beautiful. And no, there's a crisis around every damn corner. How do we deal with that, Nely?
Well, I'm going to tell you very specifically because this is something that I talk about a lot in my book. And when I've gone around the country the last 4 years after the book came out and I tell people what I'm about to tell you, I think they look at me like I'm insane.
Oh, I can't even wait to hear whatever this is.
And I'm going to tell you, and now I think I don't look so insane. If you want to be bulletproof from any crisis, the number one thing you have to do is save 2 years of salary.
Okay.
Whatever level you're at. For some people, that's a lot. And for some people, it's less. Doesn't matter. You have to have 2 years of money put away. Why? Because you have to have 1 year to sustain you through any crisis if you don't make a penny. And the second year, you're going to invest in something that you don't do for a living. So, for instance, real estate, stock, a CD, selling on eBay, whatever it is, something that makes you money while you sleep. Because if you only have one track of income, you're screwed. Sooner or later, you're going to be screwed. I don't care if you're a doctor. I don't care if you're a lawyer. I don't care if you're a school teacher. I don't care if you're a bus driver. If something goes wrong, you have an accident, you get sick, you're screwed.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, I think people are really learning the side hustle right now, but I mean, you're right. Like, forget even this time, anything could happen. You're right. You can get sick. Your kid could get sick. You could get a divorce. I mean, like, things could happen.
Your husband could die. I mean, there's a million things.
If you have one source, I mean, what do you do?
So you have to have, and so people say to me, I can't live in New York or LA or San Francisco and save 2 years of salary. I go, why is everybody living in New York, LA, and San Francisco? Because you have to look at that too. And I say this to young women, don't go to the obvious places. The American system is built on you going somewhere, buying property cheap, holding it for 20 years. And in 20 years, you'll be a millionaire. There is a 20-year cycle to making money, right? So if you come out of school and go get a job in Bentonville, Arkansas, which is my favorite city in America, ton of jobs where you can buy a house for under $100,000. Then when you're in 20 years, that house will be worth $1 million. That's just the way things appreciate, right?
Yeah.
And I think we don't realize, again, there's not enough financial literacy. We don't talk about this in school. Women don't talk about this with each other. We're financially illiterate.
Yeah.
And there is a financial system that this country is made of. If we don't know it, if we don't understand it, it's like you're playing Monopoly and you don't know the rules of the game. You're not gonna win.
Right.
So I think with this whole crisis, it's become very clear. Like, I now don't sound like a crazy person.
No.
And I've spent the last few months in the pandemic, I've done 82 webinars teaching women how to fill out the forms for the SBA. When I told
whoa, girl.
people are like, what's the SBA? Okay. The SBA is you pay taxes, and there is this organization, the Small Business Administration, that's been around since 1954. It doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat. It's nonpartisan. And it's here to help small business owners. Whether there's an earthquake, a fire, any kind of crisis, they loan you money. Now, everybody found out now because the pandemic was for everybody, right?
Yes.
So women were like, what the hell? How do I fill out these forms? What do I do? What is this SBA? Is it the IRS? Are they going to come after me? We have got to take charge of our lives and our finances. We have to be more informed. We have to know what our taxes do for us. We have to save money. We have to take the money we save and half of it and invest it. We have to pay off debt. We have to be prepared for the next crisis. And if we're not in this time out, you forgive yourself, but then you say, this will never happen to me again.
Yes.
Take action.
Yes. My God, yes. Tell me about the crises in your life. How have you overcome them? Do you use this financial strategy yourself? Or what else have you done over all this stuff?
As my son says to me all the time, he goes, Mom, and he's right. He goes, Mom, it's very difficult for a kid in school. if you're going to do gym class and you have an overweight gym teacher because you feel like not inspired. So to me, the reason I wrote this book and the reason I decided to do this is because where I am the most congruent, we don't all walk the walk of what we talk about, right?
Yeah.
I feel because I'm an immigrant, this was my most congruent space. I actually live my book.
Yes.
Every day, I live my book. I save money. And sometimes even in the last 4 years when I've been teaching women all this, and I say in my book, if you try to save other people and you're not constantly saving yourself, you start becoming resentful because you're a wounded healer. And sometimes even for me, when I'm teaching people, I would come home and I go, I'm feeling a little resentful. And I'm like, read your own book, chick. And I realize I've got to go invest more money. I've got to go make more money. Because if I'm teaching you all this and I'm not walking the walk every day, I'm incongruent. And incongruence is what leads us to a lot of unhappiness because we know we're frauds then.
Yeah.
So yes, I walk the walk of everything I tell you. I mean, I entered this crisis this time, which is why I can give back to other women because I did it perfectly right this time. I was prepared. And when I saw what was happening, I was even more prepared. Any money I had invested in anything that was questionable, I popped it out because this is a time to be liquid, to have cash. You may not make money for 2 years. We may go into a depression, which sounds like the end of the world, but it isn't because people become wealthy in depressions if they save money. That's the other, there's a silver lining to bad things, which is if those of us that have been good get to make a lot of money. People default on homes, default on businesses that you can buy for cheap. So there is a silver lining to being prepared and to preparing this time for the next time, because don't worry, it'll come again.
Yeah. Tell me, I mean, I think a lot of people are in fear, right? And
Yeah,
thing where you say, make failure your best friend. How the hell do we make failure our best friend? Now, and deal with our fear? Like, well, a lot of us are fear about our financial peril. Like, we're really terrified. Like, how do we?
I will tell you. I think, first of all, when I say that, I don't mean that they're like, you should feel bad because you're afraid. I'm afraid every freaking day of my life.
Well,
And
that's
so
we feel better.
out.
Okay.
Join the club. Okay.
Okay.
I'm afraid, and I'm afraid of failure. And I go into doom and gloom in the middle of the night like everybody else. But I know that it's illogical. So I'm going to tell you how to get out of that. Okay. Number one, when you're in crisis, like right now, you need to read history. Immediately Google pandemics of the last century. Okay. These things that we're going through have happened before. You need to read history. You need to read whatever religious book you believe in, whether it's the Bible, the Quran, whatever. Because if you read the Bible, there have been many pandemics. There have been many floods. There has, Noah's Ark.
It's just
all of these things.
Yeah.
So we have lived, humankind has gone through the obstacle course of life for centuries and centuries and centuries. You're not the first one. Get over yourself. Okay. And guess what? Everybody makes it through. And in fact, if you read history, you'll know that after every horrible period, there is a renaissance. There is more money. After the Depression, there were the roaring 20s and everything was beautiful and there was money. Life is cyclical. So this is a time to really ground yourself in what is real, because we tend to go, oh my God, the world is coming to an end. And you read all these conspiracy theories online, and now we're in social media. I mean, everybody needs to see the documentary, The Social Dilemma on Netflix, which tells you.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes.
But the truth is, this has happened before. Everyone gets through it. I mean, some people die. Yes, that's life. Some people die. But as a world, we will get through it. And there will be a light at the end of the tunnel. So you have to breathe and calm down. Just like when I can tell you this, I've had horrific failures. In my personal life, I've been divorced. I've had horrible tragedies in my personal life. And in my career, yeah, I probably succeeded 2 or 3 times in a big way and failed a lot. You cannot succeed once or twice or 3 times without failing thousands of times.
Yeah.
So for you to think that everybody, when you see Beyonce on TV and all that, that's all BS. You don't know what these people, I always say, when you're jealous of someone else, use them as your guiding light, because honestly, you may think, why does she get this? You don't know what her cross to bear is. You don't know what came before, and you don't know what's coming after. Did we know Kobe Bryant was going to die at 40?
No, God.
Okay, so would you trade would you trade your life for his? Or, Oprah Winfrey's gotten all this stuff. Do we know what her childhood was or what her end will be?
Yeah.
So we can't focus, we almost have to be a horse on our own track.
Yeah. Stay in your
This is
lane,
my
put your
journey.
blinders on, and do your
Right.
work.
This is my journey in this lifetime. Don't worry about this person and that person. Take the good of those people, learn from them, copy what they do right, make a composite of many people, because no one person has, you may say, I love the career of this woman, but I love the children of this woman. And I love the family life of this woman. And I like the way this woman, lives her life, whatever. You don't get it all from one person. None of us is perfect. We're screwed up.
Yeah.
We have parts of us that are evolved and parts of us that are very base.
Yeah. Well, you know what I always say? You can't run your race looking to the side, right? If you're looking left and right, how can you run your race? You can't. You need to keep your blinders on.
You can't.
So tell me something. Well, you mentioned some tragedies, but you can tell us if you want to tell us. But what does it mean to be self-made?
To me, what it means, obviously the connotation of self-made has to do with entrepreneurship and money, but to me, it doesn't. To me, it means that in order to make it to the end of your life, you're going to have to DIY yourself from the inside out, make yourself over and over and over again. Which means you have to grow and evolve, and you have to pivot, to use a tech term. You cannot stay stagnant, or you will die many deaths in your life. You have to take the horrors that show up and tell yourself, I'm going to take myself to a higher place this time. And you don't believe it. You even don't believe it. You go, I can't get past this thing. I can only imagine. I think the worst thing that could happen to someone is that their child dies. And I just can't even imagine. But even that, you have to take your pain and turn it into profit. Turn it into your calling. Turn it into the thing that you make money on because you're an expert at it, instead of drown and die from it.
Yes.
Or you are going to be, and I see a lot of people like that are the walking dead.
Yeah.
They're not lit.
They're
like, right?
Yeah, they are. They're the walking dead. Yeah.
And you know what? The other thing is, I tell a lot, like my son, and I have a lot of talks, and I have a very young staff. And I say to them, look at me. I'm in my 50s. I still work like a freaking dog. Okay? It doesn't get easier. I have mastered many things. I have overcome many things. Every day I get a new thing to master, a new thing to overcome, a new thing to grow. This whole social media thing for me is like, I'm like, oh my God, I can't deal with that. And my son's like, Mom, you suck at social media. It's like, you got to figure it out. And so there are many things that show up that I'm like, I don't want to do this. I'm done.
Yes.
But you know what? You have to be committed to grow by any means necessary till you die.
Yeah. And sometimes because
even
when we don't want.
What is the alternative? Are we going to wait? Like when I say to women, like as you can see, have cultivated my voice, and I talk and I complain, and a lot of people, like a lot of my Latinas or my ethnic women are very quiet. And I tell people it's because we come from countries where if you spoke up, you'd disappear. Yes. You'd end up in some political prison or something.
Yes.
But I feel like if I am in this country, that I have all of these benefits that most people take for granted, when am I going to wait to be in the grave to have a voice? No. I'm going to be in the grave soon. We blink and our lives are over.
No, Nely, I love that you say, because I've watched all your clips and different things. I love when you said this country is built on voices. I had never heard that before. I thought that was so cool. Why is it important for us all, Latinas especially, to use and to find your voice? You say that finding your voice can even be like a lifetime journey.
That's right. Because we don't come out of the womb with a voice. It's like saying if you're a singer, just to give you an analogy, if you're a singer and you go and sing all the time from the time you're little, you sound like a karaoke person, right? You're covering other people, and you start off by sounding like Mariah Carey or trying to sound like this one or that one. And then you're not going to get a record deal if you don't find your voice, your unique voice. And for me, that I came from a communist regime, and that my parents came here and they were very scared because they were, the last couple of years we were in Cuba, they thought, oh my God, we're going to go to jail, blah, 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 this and that. I had to find my voice. And I tell women the easiest way to find your voice is to go take an acting class or a public speaking class. And it's a great way to find a boyfriend or a girlfriend, not a wife or a husband.
Yes.
And because for me, I'm a big fan of Shonda Rhimes, and she, wrote Olivia Pope. And I always say, if you find a character in a movie or in a TV show that you go, I wish I could talk like her and be snappy and,
Yeah.
okay, go get a script and start reading like her and start feeling comfortable, even pretending to be her. And again, at first, you're going to sound like karaoke. You're going to sound like, oh, I sound like Olivia Pope. But, and then one day something happens and you're going to remember the words of Olivia Pope, but you're going to say it in your own way.
Yeah.
And for me, that's what happened. I think that I studied the voice of other people. I studied older Jewish men. I grew up in Teaneck.
All the Jewish men.
Well, because I grew up in Teaneck, New Jersey, and all my neighbors, it was a very Jewish town. And all my girlfriends were like Jewish girls that went to all-girl Catholic school with me. And their dads were like, remember, we lived on the other side, it's like New Jersey, on the other side of Manhattan. And all the dads were like editors for the New York Times or this or that or that. And they were very empowered. And they'd be like, hey, blah, 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 blah. And I'd be like, I just love the way they talk. And I think to myself, I've raised a lot of money in my life. And I think that if I was going to raise money in the voice of an immigrant Latina, I wouldn't have raised 5 pennies. But I would hear these men say, hey, I'm stocked that if you don't buy it, you're going to miss the boat. And I'd be like, hey, I want this money. If you're not going to get it, somebody else is going to get it. And I started putting my own spin on it.
Right.
And it would work. And I'd go, hell, this works.
You channeled your inner Jewish man.
That's right. Whoever that muse is for you, that's why when I do my speeches and myself, I really do channel. I have a lot of friends like Sandra Cisneros, who's our Maya Angelou in the Latino world. She's one of my best friends, and I channel her a lot because I find that there is a lot of insight in being an entrepreneur through artists in a weird way. Because artists have a way of finding the style of writing or the way that they paint.
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot from my friends that are artists or writers or poets of how to find my own unique voice that isn't like that. I'm not a sellout, because you see a lot of people, like at least in our cultures, in multicultural cultures, you might find a Black man or woman or a Latina man that sound really white and that sound really like a fraternity guy. And I want to be authentic to my Latina-ness and yet be a mainstream person.
Right.
Be someone that can be understood and heard by everyone.
Right.
And so those are things that we cultivate. Again, you're not 10 years old and know how to figure all this out.
Right. It's over.
That journey of finding your voice is such a joyful one. It really is. Because when you find it, and when you see that you write something and you go, wow, that's like, I wrote a book and my publisher brought in an editor to edit my book. And when the editor read, when the editor took a pass at the book, I go, this sounds like a white girl from 1950. It doesn't sound
You're
like
taking all my voice out of it. Yeah.
it doesn't sound like a Latina that is Latina, but yet mainstream. So I had to go back and
Yeah.
take all of her. She had like taken out my.
She
So
took your voice. She took your
yeah,
voice out. Yeah.
and the reason I knew it is because my voice is very clear to me.
Yeah.
It is.
Right.
I'm really grounded in my voice.
You know, it's funny. I have one of my things I say on this podcast, Nelly, and you are speaking my language, is I always say women are not born warriors. We become them. So by the same token, it's just like finding your voice. I love the way you said that. Tell me, you say you can be louder and braver. Tell me what that means.
Well, I think that we all, we really diminish ourselves. When I was producing TV shows, I would go casting and I would do, let's say, just to give you an example, a cooking show, kind of like, Master Chef or one of those kind of shows. And I was finding, people that are wannabe chefs. And I'd go cast, and all the men that never really worked in a restaurant or anything, I'd say, well, what is it that you do? I'm a chef. And I'd go to women and say, what do you do? Oh, people say I cook well, but very diminished.
The title. They wouldn't claim it.
No. And I'd say, sweetie, if you don't tell me you're a chef, I can't cast you in the show. If you don't, power is taken, not given. Choose yourself so I can choose you. So, to me, louder and braver is about choosing yourself, right? It's like, what are we waiting for? To be loud in the grave? Time is ticking. When are you going to speak your truth? When are you going to choose yourself? When are you going to say, I'm good at this and I deserve this? Here, I show up at an event and I raise my hand. I am so-and-so. This is what I do. Blah, blah, blah. Because if you don't do that, you are not, I don't think, again, another thing we take for granted. I think everybody should go to India where there's billions of people. And people fight to be seen because there's so many people. We are in a moment with social media that good luck being seen. And if you don't declare yourself, if you don't know who you are and ask for things, no one coming on a silver platter and going to give them to you.
100%. 100%. Yeah. I don't know what we're waiting for. What are we waiting for?
Louder. And when I say louder, I don't mean loud like me because I know I'm a beast. I say to sometimes Latinas who sometimes, maybe somebody says something really racist in front of them or whatever. And they're like, but we can't speak up like a Black woman. We don't do that. And I go, okay, so let me tell you how to do it. If somebody says something really horrible in front of you and you just take it, it's eating up your self-esteem because that means you believe what they say. So maybe you don't say what I would say, which is like, excuse me, because I'm a real loud. I said, but you can say, I'm sorry, what did you just say? What you just said, it was like you stabbed me in the heart 50 times. And that person's going to go, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Sometimes a slap is better told quietly, vulnerable way. And that's being loud as well.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say when someone makes a racist joke or a sexist joke, the first thing you should do is say, I'm sorry, what did you say? Can you repeat that? Because when you make someone repeat that thing they just meant to kind of off color say to the side, it holds them accountable. Or you say, what did you mean by that? What did you mean when you said women can't do anything? What did you mean? Can you explain that? People don't like that. People don't want to have to explain it. They just want to kind of blurt it out and leave it there and stab you with it, but they don't want to really take ownership of it. So when you ask them to repeat it or explain it, they're like, they don't like it. So that's very true. Tell me, you have been helping women. You've had such an incredible life in your 50-something years. You look about 30, so I can't even believe it. Tell me, what is the biggest lesson? What is the biggest lesson that you've had personally or professionally that really keeps you going, Nely? Because you're kind of one of those people, You're one of those people that's out there for us. So that when we are feeling like we cannot go on, we go, oh, let me go read what Nely said. Let me go hear what Nely said. Oh, you know what? I'm going to listen to Nely's podcast again because I'm going to go crazy. I want to remember what she said. How do you keep yourself going? What are the lessons that have kind of brought you so you can keep doing this work?
Well, listen, my life has not been a walk in the park either. And I have lots of regrets. I mean, like I should say that first because I don't want everybody to think that I just figured it all out. I didn't. I mean, I definitely focus on my career more than my personal life. I definitely kissed a lot of frogs and chose men that were inappropriate for me in so many ways, and chose men that were um, projects that needed fixing. But I mean severe fixing, not just
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah. Major fixer-uppers.
And hence why I went back to school and got a doctorate in psychology. I think I was really trying to heal myself, which I think it really helped me. Um, and I do regret, I have to say, that I didn't have more children. I have a son who's 20. I think he's the greatest thing that ever happened to me. He's my little Buddha. He keeps me grounded and like he's actually made me be more successful because I see everything through his eyes and I want to be better for him. And it's kept me very, even more disciplined, even more organized, even more orderly. But I wish I had had more kids because when he left home, I was devastated.
Mm-hmm.
And, I tell a lot of young women, I tell people that work with me that are young, I go, don't do what I did. Don't let years pass. Put the kid thing. That's important. I would say the kid thing is even more important than the mate thing, honestly. Because mate's not everyone finds the love of their life or the perfect mate for a lifetime. That's also like a little bit fantasy. Um, so I that's a part of my life that I wish I had mastered earlier, but so be it. But I think what keeps me going is that I am an immigrant. I am grateful. I am grateful for this country. I am grateful for what I'm given. I'm grateful for the opportunities I have. I am not going to waste all the sacrifice my parents made, all the suffering they went through to get me here. I'm not going to waste it and not crush it. I'm not. I just saw this documentary. It made me cry so much. Lin-Manuel Miranda's father, there's a documentary on HBO called Luis Miranda about his dad. And I was like, why is his dad in a documentary?
Yeah.
And I could cry talking about it. It showed his journey from Puerto Rico to New York, all the obstacles, all the bad things that happened to him so that he could have this kid that's a genius who was messed up because he was an artsy fartsy genius that
I didn't know where he fit in. Yeah. Yeah.
ADD, this and that. And the father was like, no. And the father, through his little connections, helping politicians in New York and this and that in his own way, got him into the White House to do a reading of Hamilton, which Donovan funded. And you realize, it makes me cry. How many parents don't get to realize their dreams, but make it so that their children, if the children are smart, don't waste it. Yeah. Don't waste all the legacy of your parents and grandparents. I think about my grandparents in Spain at the turn of the last century, in the middle of a war, the Spanish-American War, go to Cuba and just, they were given a piece of land to go to Cuba, start all over again. And then my parents had to start all over again. And you mean to tell me I'm not going to take advantage of all that sacrifice and not just do it for myself, but do it for other people? Because, in that sense, I'm very, like, that's why my Jewish men they're like, in Judaism, they say you have to leave the world a better place. And I believe that.
Yeah. Well, you are an amazing reminder that you don't want to forget the history and what's come before and that you have to keep going. I love everything you just said. All right. We're going to the speed round, Nely. Now it's like you and me having a good time. Okay.
Okay.
What is your cocktail of choice, Nely?
You're not going to like it.
I'm going to love it. I know I am.
Coca-Cola.
Let me tell you something right now. A high octane Coca-Cola. is the secret to life. I'm telling
Mexican
you,
people.
Mexican Coke is the secret to life. I used to have one before every meeting because it would just give me the right energy and it would get me going. So I am with you on that 100%. And then you're the only one who's ever said that though, and I love it. Okay, what is the mantra or quote you live by? You probably have 12, but which mantra or quote do you live by, or several quotes?
Well, I'm going to say that the quote that I say that people relate to the most, even though I don't think women hear this often, and that is the title of my next book, is Don't Buy Shoes, Buy Buildings.
Tell me about this, Nely. What do you mean by that?
Women spend their life acquiring things that are worth nothing instead of having a goal. I'm going to own a building. I'm going to own my house and pay it off. I'm going to own assets that are going to appreciate over 20 years and make me rich and make money while I sleep. And so my next book is about, I have made 5 times the money in real estate than in my TV life. And I learned that from my Jewish bosses, that you don't buy shoes, you buy buildings. You have a plan for your life that's big. And you make sacrifices, not suffering, sacrifices. In putting money away, investing money in assets that make you money while you sleep. It's that parallel track, mission and money.
You know what? You need to make that "Don't buy buildings, buy shoes" into a little poster that I can put on this wall right here so I can remind everybody, because that is a really good point. Because you know what? You add up all those shoes and it does add up to a damn building if you're buying the ones.
Remember Section was city.
Yes, she was
right by the apartment.
She couldn't buy that apartment. She bought all the damn shoes in the world. Yes, I know. You're right. Okay, what simple thing do you do for yourself, like a self-care tip you can share with us, because we are just all some tired women?
Well, I think I meditate a lot, because I learned to do it. I went on silent meditation retreats, which for somebody who talks as much as I do is hell.
That sounds terrible.
I really learned to quiet down, because I think you can only you can tell yourself the truth, the real truth. And I also, on a fun note, I go to spas a lot. I'm a spa chick.
I love it. I love spas. Meditation retreat, I don't know if I can do it because I'm like you, I talk too much. What makes you feel unstoppable?
I mean, I feel unstoppable every day of my life. So waking up at 5 a.m. every day makes me feel unstoppable. I think waking up early is my secret sauce. I think when I look at very successful people, and I used to be a night person. I realized at some point that very successful people do their best work in the morning. And I wrote my book at 5 o'clock in the morning. And so I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning every day, and I wake up like gangbusters, ready to go.
I love it. And I love that you have an old enough son that you can actually do something at that time. Some of these parents are waking up at 4 a.m. so they can just have 5 seconds without their children, which I do it too, ladies. So I'm with you. I wake up early. Who do you most admire?
That's a tough one. You know, I think I can't say that I admire one person, because I told you I admire different things of different people. I guess if I'm going to say the woman that, you know, right now, the women that I am admiring now are women in their 80s, because I feel like you always have to project yourself forward, right? And I look at Gloria Steinem.
Oh, she's
forget who she was, who she's grown up to be in her 80s. She's beautiful, first of all. She just is beautiful, naturally beautiful, and she glows from within. But that she has stayed on course. So I love her career and her mission and her serenity. I love Dolores Huerta, which I don't know if a lot of people know who she is, but she is kind of our Gloria Steinem, who fought for the farm workers. I love that she's 90 years old. I just did her 90-year interview, and it was such an honor, because first of all, she's also beautiful, and she is a fighter and a warrior at 90. I love Rita Moreno, because
I love that Rita.
She is so energetic, and I love her body and how she's taken care of herself. And again, another woman that looks beautiful in old age, raised a beautiful daughter. has had a very saucy life and is very transparent. I love Susie Orman. I think Susie Orman is the real deal. She really helps women. She's congruent. And I feel like I learned everything growing up that I knew about money from Susie Orman. And I'm so proud that she wrote the opening to my book. And I'm such a fan of hers. I love, uh, I'm sorry.
What's the other one you said that's like the Maya Angelou, but
Cisneros.
how do
Sandra, S.A. In fact, I'm doing an incredible talk with her this Thursday.
Okay.
How to be light in an era of darkness. Sandra, Sandra, Cisneros, Cisneros.
Okay.
She is, she's my spiritual, I would say, go-to. And you know who else I love? Just on a light, I'm obsessed with Norma Kamali.
I haven't thought about Norma Kamali in years.
Norma Kamali is a freaking ace. She's still running her company. She's 75. She's super holistic. She looks like $1 million. She is constantly inventing new things. I'm floored by her. And I'm also floored by Vera Wang, who's in her 70s and looks like a teenager and still is like fun and funny. And I look at those women and then I have to say, I'm floored by this woman named Christine Downey, who was my Freud professor in psychology school, who was 82 years old, had the energy of a 30-year-old, and was writing, went back to school at 50, became the expert in the world on Sigmund Freud, and has written 8 books. And she tours the world in her expertise.
I love it. It's just showing you that aging is so different now, right? We're really taking things on. It's almost like things begin at 50.
It is.
Right? It's like that's our starting line now and where we're going.
You also have enough wisdom and groundedness. Like, there's a great word. I don't know if you know this word, a crone, which is like a crone is like a woman elder in society.
Oh.
And I love that word because I think that's something for me. I aspire to be a crone, to be like the wise woman in my community, in my, that when you talk to that person, you can count on that person. I think, we've gone so far away from that, where you almost look at older people, especially men, and you go, they're babies. They're like little kids.
Yeah.
I love people that I feel are grounded.
Yes.
In the earth.
Yes. Tell me, Nely, what is exciting you the most right now?
Well, I have many plans for becoming selfmade.com. Just so everybody that's listening, I do free webinars and free content for all of you. I teach you exactly point by point, blow by blow, how I did it.
I'm learning everything from you.
Everything. So, if I could retire at 45, not that I did or I will, but I could. And I had zero money, zero contacts, was an intern, an assistant, worked my way up. I always say I'm a turtle. I didn't do anything fast. And if I bought my first property at 31 with $5,000 down, and by 45, I had 16 buildings as a parallel track to my career, if I could do that, and I'm not J-Lo, Beyonce, or a professional athlete, and at 45, I could retire, what is everyone else's problem? Watch my videos.
I'm going to watch.
I want to do more of that. I really, for the rest of my life, want to help women wealth build.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do.
Well,
but what also excites me is that in a bad economy, which we will be in next year, there will be great opportunities, and there will be moments that all of us can really quadruple everything we lost.
Well, this is the time to maybe, I think, Nely, get in with you, start watching, start preparing, and start learning so that we can make the most of these next couple of years and we can build our wealth like you and be self-made like you. Be self-made.
Please, you guys, follow me at Nely Galan on Instagram because I am so bad. And yet I'm doing a lot of content on Instagram, on LinkedIn.
Yes, you are.
On Facebook. I'm trying, and again, this is my staff telling me, tell the stories of when you were young and how you did this and how you did that. And I'm really trying to do that on social media as well. And I just really I want to help other women. That's what I want to do.
Well, thank you so much, Nely. Thank you for everything we talked about today. I'm so inspired. I'm for sure going to be watching all of your stuff. I plan to learn and do and literally do everything you tell me to do. So I am really, really excited. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. And you look so beautiful with your pink.
Oh, I'm rocking my pink over here.
I'm looking like hell with my spot removal.
No, you are not. You are gorgeous. Oh my gosh. Thank you everyone for joining me today. Remember to subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, or Spotify. And if you enjoyed the show, leave us a positive review. This is the Conversations with Warrior Women podcast with me, Liz Svatek. And remember, every woman has a story. You just have to ask her. Right, Nely?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen to every woman's story.
Yes. Bye now.